Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know that this screen is familiar to anybody here. It may or may not, depending on how you grew up. This is not familiar to me at all. In fact, I didn't grow up playing this game. However, I bought it a couple of years ago, probably 2011, 2012 or so, maybe 2013, I don't really remember. And I kind of got into it. It is an interesting game. This is ESPN, MLS, Extra Time 2002, I think. Not from the same people who made ESPN NFL 2K5. I'm just going to pick two teams here. This is a classic Major League Soccer. 2001 is when this game came out, so there are 10 clubs, and of course, back when they did an East and West Conference All-Star game. I'm going to go ahead and put Earthquakes, and then I'll just go ahead and pick the hometown, Kansas City Wizards. Now, a couple of things are important, and one thing in particular actually led me to pick this game to be on Sports of the Day. This is Sports of the Day, by the way. I am Joe Bush, after that cold open. First of all, if anybody remembers, E3 was this past week, and one of the very glossed over pieces of information contained in that E3 was about a 2-second pan over of, I believe it's called CenturyLink Field in Seattle, Washington, which is the home stadium of Seattle Sounders Football Club. And the only important thing about that is that that would be the first time in a FIFA game that a real American stadium has been used in a FIFA game. Not a big deal, but still, it's an example of kind of a way the game is expanded into, I guess, more accepting of the American soccer culture, that sort of scene and all that. So we have all these different things, all these different stadiums. These are all the actual, to my knowledge, this was the first time at least that Major League stadiums were in a video game. And maybe the only time, I don't know. Of course, this is Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm going to make this a night game to match what it is right now. It is summer. So that's Ryan. I'll go with 5 minutes, not a big deal. Yeah, I want offsides on. Let's go with the... Let's see, so if I go... Hopefully we won't have to go to overtime. Okay, I'm good with that. I want to just go 5-minute overtime, then a penalty kick shootout, like how they actually do it. Hopefully they don't do the, I like the white away uniforms for Casey. Anyway, unimportant. Let's get to the actual game here. Now, this era in Major League Soccer history is regarded as sort of a dark era. Maybe not a dark era, but not the height of the league, certainly, and even the sport in the United States' popularity. The American interest in the global game of soccer kind of peaked in '94, before this league was even started. Really peaked around when we hold. Oh wow, we already got a card. 3 minutes into the game, not doing well. But yeah, that was dirty. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out the controls here as well. This is... oh, shit. Anyway, I'm trying to keep on track here. This would have been... 2001 was right after probably the worst event in American soccer, which was the dissolution... Outside of the total faceplant of that was the 2006 World Cup, the dissolution and contraction of the league, basically, of two clubs being Tampa Bay Mutiny and Miami Fusion. Two of the original, was it 12 clubs? Or maybe 10? I don't know. And two fairly successful teams every year. I mean, or at least Tampa was. Now I don't know about like ticket sales and stuff like that, but in terms of winning games, Tampa was always a decent team. I don't know that much about Miami, but it was Carlos Valderrama actually played in his later years, not really in his prime, but played for the Tampa Bay Mutiny, and that was how you were supposed to refer to them. There were a couple crucial mistakes early on in trying to, I guess, court American viewers into watching soccer. They tried to, I think, in a sport, when you're trying to get a sport into the popular, I guess, the popular conscience, one of the things that you have to make a decision on is if you want to immediately try to attract the existing culture of the sport, especially if it's something like this where everybody knows the rules and a lot of people grew up playing it. When it comes to soccer, however, not many people at that time, watched it. So, damn. So at this point, this would have been 2001, at least at the beginning of the league, this is one of the few leagues where we can look back and point exactly this and the American Football Conference, for the most part, which started out as the AFL, are the only real two leagues where you can point out to an exact beginning. Of course, Major League Soccer was founded in 1996, and the one thing oddly in common with the two of them is Lamar Hunt, who is the founder of Major League Soccer and the founder of what became the Kansas City Chiefs, started out as the Dallas Texans. I believe he's a Kansas City legend, as the only other Kansas City legend. So, oh! We were close, yet so very far. Slightly to the left. Anyway, when soccer kind of came to the United States, I mean, it always had been here. We had the North American Soccer League in the 70s, and indoor soccer had always been around. I don't know if it was always successful, but I mean, it had always been there. It kind of had to adapt to, I mean, the sort of American way of doing things. I know I'm not playing this well at all. This is actually interesting. Well, I'll get to that later. This is actually a Pro Evolution Soccer game. The same engine from it. The game that is now Pro Evolution Soccer, which started out, I believe, as Winning 11 or Goalstorm. Weird franchise. Actually, started out in America as Goalstorm, then eventually became Winning 11, and then eventually became Pro Evolution. Only series I know that has changed names multiple times within its existence. Anyway. American soccer started in 1996, still at the beginning had two kind of things that I think actually turned a lot of guys who probably would have been more likely to get into it, people who had been maybe watching the European or Mexican or Brazilian or something, South American, any of those leagues that had already been established where where it was the sport of choice. Anybody who had already been paying attention to that or had been fans of that, if they were to be interested in an American game, one of the things that I think they really didn't need to do was just how, for a league founded in 1996, it started out in the most 1990s of ways. Started out 10 teams, all with very edgy names. They would have not been, that out of place, in a Sega 32X commercial. To think that, a Tom Kalinske were to be the guy to think of these names. For instance, probably the most egregious of these being Kansas City Wiz and Dallas Burn in particular. It sounds really funny today. Not to disparage those, but it's just a different time period. When you start a league, and San Jose actually started as the San Jose Clash. They also all started, basically every team's name was the kind of American way of naming a team, where it's, the city and then the nickname, the, Orlando Magic, something like that. Not that many clubs even today continue with that nomenclature, that sort of style. And I think a lot of people wanted it to just be, kind of like what the British were doing or something like that. And then also, if you go back and watch early 90s, it would have been late 90s, but early just Major League Soccer broadcasts, you'll notice for a couple of years they used a counter, oh damn, a clock that counted down, which isn't, you know, typically how you do stuff. And then also probably the most problematic thing is that it didn't have the foothold in the United States that any other sport did, and yet still teams were playing in these really big stadiums that could not fill them. So particularly in this case, this is Arrowhead Stadium, home of the Kansas City Chiefs, and for a while, when I was going to, actually the first couple of years I was going to games, the Kansas City Wizards played here. Or in, you know, in the actual stadium, not in, well, in this virtual, anyway, whatever, I'm like tripping over my own words as I speak. I remember going to these games in like 2006, 2007, I think was when I started going, and looking, they, you know, they have, if you've ever been to Arrowhead, they had big banners with, you know, Chiefs legends and, you know, the Len Dawsons and Derek Thomas, those sort of guys. And I was like, where's the soccer, you know, soccer banners? There's no, you know, there's no banner that says Cup Champion or anything like that. You know, nothing really in the stadium to indicate that a soccer team even played there. There we go. Well, that was way too easy. That's just a great animation right there. Very 2000 and, well, this game came out in 2002, I think, so it's very typical of the time. Anyway, yeah, you don't need to see that again. You already saw that, and it wasn't particularly dazzling. There are certain names you might recognize. On both of these teams, we have, for San Jose, possibly the best American player. Oh, well, that was stupid. Yeah. Anyway, well, I feel bad now. I tend to do that. I tend to score and then immediately let them. Anyway, if granted, I don't know how to defend this anyway, so I'll just stand in place there. On the American side, there was Tony Meola, or on the Kansas City side. Sorry, when I think of the American side, I think of Tony Meola. I believe it was the '94 World Cup, but he had a Super Nintendo game named after him. It was like Tony Meola Championship Soccer or something like that for the Super Nintendo and I think Sega Genesis. One of the best American, absolutely one of the best American players ever. And then of course on San Jose, the Earthquakes. Oh, wow, is that Jimmy Conrad? Possibly. But anyway, Landon Donovan, who is he's still playing today. Famously, last year did not make the cut for the World Cup team, which angered a lot of people. And I'm not surprised. I mean, he was one of the best. You know, he's been in the league a while though, so I mean, you know how it goes. He's been playing for a while. Players get older, and we got this kind of new blood. And well, that was great. I'm really glad I took that shot. Yeah, so this was an era. This is the only era I know of, or the only game I know of, rather. Sorry, that contains only Major League teams, which is another very American thing. Only to have one league in the game, because I mean, why would you need any more? That's, I believe, the case with just about every game on the market, outside of FIFA, which has, because again, it's such a global game. I need to stop pressing X because I think part of me just assumes that'll be kind of a hard tackle, not a slide. Alright, whatever. Let's go up here with this. I would like to score. That would be just delightful. Okay, well, shit. And, alright. Wow, that is the most 2002 hair color I've ever seen. Meola. Devastated. So, alright, we're down 2-1 now. Unfortunate. But I did turn overtime on, so, hey, what do you know? See if Glasgow can get his second goal of the game, of the match, sorry. Boom! Hey! Oh! Well, that's unfortunate. I will never be a great soccer game commentator because I don't really know. Because it's not really formatted the way that will work for me, because I can't look away from the screen and read off of the whatever topics I have for me. I basically just have to go off of because I do a little bit of preparation for every episode of this. Not very much. I don't script it or anything, but I do say what I want to talk about in an episode. Specifically in this one, and unfortunately for this one, I don't have that great of a bank vault of memories from this game as I would from even NFL 2K3, like back when I did that game. Ah, no. I wish that was just a little bit more force on that head. Yeah, I bought this game a couple of years ago. This wasn't like the game I grew up playing. I can reminisce on stuff, but I'm reminiscing on actual events, on actual soccer. And this wasn't even an era where I was really paying attention. I didn't start watching the sport. I didn't start playing the sport until 2000 and... Oh! No! It is a sad day in Kansas City. Kind of realistic, the number of empty seats in the stadium. Unfortunately, of course, there are still way too many filled. In the old Arrowhead Stadium, they have still in the modern Arrowhead Stadium. I don't know why I said the old one. They didn't change that much. All they did, it's like the new Arrowhead's here. Okay, well we lose 3-1. And I think 2010 they were like the new Arrowhead is here, which means we put in a larger screen. Anyway, okay, that's the end of that. But we used to be able only to fill the bottom, not even fill the bottom a level of it. The top two were not even, no people were even, I think, allowed there. It may have been roped off. So, this is our highlights from the match. We got a weird goal there, and then a foul there. I guess this was an attempt. Oh, okay, they're going to show even the misses. So the 3 times I could have scored and at least equaled the game up, or even taken the lead. That was stupid, and I feel bad about it. I let you down. This was the worst one, though. I have an opportunity here, and then another opportunity right off the post. How many times does that happen? And this one here was just like, come on. Oh, okay, now that one wasn't even... We didn't... No, okay, hopefully coming up will be the one where I just feel bad about. Because this one was like... perfect, right there, and I just missed. Didn't even go out of bounds, I think was the best part about that. And they ended up scoring here, I think. So, not all that important to me. That's the end of this game. And really, we can look back on 13 years ago, I think this game came out. We've changed a lot. We've grown a lot. We're filling up stadiums now. And we're getting real stadiums into the FIFA game. And I will press no on that rematch. And I will say goodbye to you. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good night. Thank you for watching Sports Today.